Okay, this is the topic, linear equations, and we're going to get started here in this subject called college algebra. But in general, let's just ask the question, what is an equation? And we could say on this level that an equation is nothing more than a statement where two algebraic expressions are equal. So let's look at some examples. Now this happens to be a linear equation. We have 2x is equal to 5. That's a linear equation. And of course we want to solve for x in this problem. We'll do that here in just a minute. Let's look at another one. 3x plus 1 is equal to 4x minus 6. Now you might ask the question, where do these come from? Just make up your own linear equations. We're just making them up. That's a linear equation. Let's take a look at another one. What about this one here? 13x squared plus 9x plus 11. And like I said, we're just making these up. And we'll set that equal to 0. This particular equation is known as a quadratic equation. And it's written in standard form. A quadratic equation. Let's take a look at another one. That's an equation. Notice the 13x is under the radical. Let's now look at some where we want to find all the values of x for which the equation is true. In other words, we want to solve for x. Three x plus 1 is equal to 7. Okay, so we want to find the solution. Well, I'm just going to tell you that the solution, and we'll get to it here shortly, is 2. And we should always check to make sure that is the solution. So let's take the equation, let's plug 2 in for x. Does that equal 7? Well, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 plus 1 is 7. So you see this is a solution. To the equation. Okay? Now an equation may have no solutions, one solution, or many solutions. Let's take a look at some of those. Here's an example of an equation that has an infinite number of solutions. Of course, this is not just any equation. This is a linear equation. This linear equation is known as an identity. The reason we call this an identity is because it's true for every real number. For every real number. No matter what number you pick on the number line, let's say, you plug it in to x, and the left-hand side of the equal sign is going to equal the right-hand side of the equal sign. So you can pick anything. Let's pick 100. All right, so 2 times 100 in parentheses plus 1 equals 2 times 100 plus 2. Okay, so you'd have inside here 101 times 2 . And then 2 times 100 plus 2. They should both be equal. Okay? And that'd just be 202 on the right and 202 on the left. Okay. We can look at another one. Say, for example, we have x plus 2. Quantity squared. That will be equal to, let's say, x squared plus 2x plus 1. This is an identity. Because for every real number that we plug in for x over here on the left is going to equal to, will be the same number if we plug it in over on the right hand side. I'll let you check that out. There's another type of equation known as a conditional equation. It's conditional. A conditional equation. Conditional equations can have no solution, one solution, or many solutions. Here's an example. 3x plus 1 is equal to 3x plus 10. This equation has no solution. If we try to solve for x, which we're going to attempt to do, we can see what happens. Let's subtract 3x from both sides, or think about taking that over there to the left. And now let's take this 1 over to the right, or we say subtract 1 from both sides. What do we end up here? We end up with 0 is equal to 9. Is that true? No. This tells us that this has no solution. There's other ways of writing this, and we'll get to that later. We'll write another one that has no solution. What about x squared plus 2x is equal to x squared plus 2x plus 1. As you can see, when we subtract x squared from both sides, we get x squared minus x squared, or you can think about it just taking this over And then we could also take this over, which means you're just subtracting 2x from both sides. And we're left with 1. But what happens here? That's 0. That's 0. And so we're left with 0 is equal to 1. No, that's not true. 0 is not equal to 1. So as you can see, this is no solution. This doesn't have a solution. Equations with no solution are known as conditional equations. However, an equation with one solution is considered to be a conditional or many solutions. Well, this ends this tutorial, and we'll be continuing this topic in the next video.